I am happy to be talking to you, Daman, today. Could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
So thank you for having me on this chat, Nour. It's entirely my pleasure. Um, so I came to Dubai a very long time back in 1979, to be precise, and I have been working since then. So I have about 40 plus years of experience in handling human resources and talent management, learning and development. And of course, along with all of that was career coaching and mentoring. My last job was with a bank in the UAE in my capacity as head of the HR department. And 2 years back, I set up my own consultancy called The Life Experts. And that's a coaching consultancy. And there's no looking back now. So I'm an ICF certified coach, a coach transformation senior professional coach. And I've also been certified by the Academy for Coaches in India and a member of the Worldwide Association of Female Professionals. So that's a little bit about me. I have an educational background in English. I've done my master's. And I think that's about me.
Yeah, that's so interesting and so inspirational. Let's go with the first question. How do you determine the weaknesses in a relationship?
How do I determine the weaknesses in a relationship? So it's a very interesting question, Noor, that you're asking me. The very first step when the clients approach me is to undergo a 1 hour strategy call with them. People call this also a discovery session. And this is a session where I focus on three major areas. And the three major areas is one, what is their current reality? Where are they now? And the second bit is, where do they really want to go from this point forward? And what are the challenges, or you can say the roadblocks that are stopping them from achieving their goals? So the three things that I look at. And that is the first time that I get a pretty good insight into what is really happening in the relationship. That's the first time. I'm able to really pick on the gaps, their source in that very first meeting. And in subsequent coaching sessions, then you kind of pick on the weaknesses as well. The other thing that I also do at times is a customized strength oriented assessment. Now, what that does is it gives me a personalized and a preliminary snapshot of the relationship. But what is more important to me than all of this is the deep end conversations that I'm having with my clients. That's the most important thing. Conversations that emerge out of the powerful questions that I ask them. I've been very fortunate in that way, honestly, that with almost all of my clients, I can say that with absolute confidence that it has taken very little time for them to gain that trust and confidence in my approach. So they're able to let that guard down. And it gets much easier then. Once they've let the guard down, it gets kind of much easier then to identify what's really going on, in
Mhm.
that relationship. So that's some of the things that I do to really pick on the weaknesses.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Could I ask you to give us examples of these questions?
So some of the questions that I ask them. So, like I said, in the strategy session, we uncover a lot of the weaknesses. Examples could be what's really going on in your life right now. What's stopping you from achieving what you want to really achieve? Um, there are a whole gamut of questions that keep coming out. It's kind of a natural flow into the conversation. And as they are talking, and you see what happens in coaching, a good coach always gives ample amount of time to the coach to the client to keep coming up with what's deep down. They keep talking, and one of the skills that great coach has is listening, and I'll talk about that in a bit with you. And as they keep talking and they're going deep down, they're pouring out their heart, you know, I as a coach, I'm kind of eagle-eyed looking between the lines, the body language, the emotions that are happening, the what is the energy that the environment is reflecting back to me, and I start picking on things. So it's more of observing. It's more of what's going on here with this client, and I'm making my notes, and I'm kind of, you know, putting
Yeah,
things down.
yeah, very
Yeah,
interesting. And let's
yeah.
go to the other end. How do you determine the suitable solution?
How do I determine a suitable solution? And see, identifying the weakness and acknowledging it is the very, very first step. Sometimes the way forward really involves going deep down into their experience, the client experience. It's important for the client to feel the pain of that weakness. I call it twisting the knife. I do that sometimes, so to say. And that's done through positioning some very powerful questions. I want them to feel that way because I want them to know that it's standing in the way of their happiness or the goal that they are looking at, the outcome, the harmony that they are looking at. To me, this is a very key process to see the solution. Unless the client is able to recognize the weakness and how that weakness really is a barrier to his success, the client will not understand the seriousness or the urgency of taking it out of his life, boosting it out of his life. So I start exploring that turbulence with the client. I invite the client to go deeper into their lives. Clients are not always prepared to look beneath the surface, but that's where I enter the scene. And as the coaching progresses, you can feel a change in the tide, so to say. So, whilst it's very important to identify and feel the pain and acknowledge it, it's also very important that the client doesn't live in that pain for too long. So, very often I ask, there's another thing, I ask a couple of very interesting questions as well. And I often ask the client this question: why does this weakness really bother you? You know, and often the answer could point to the fact that he or she is looking at the spouse to fill that need or to make him or her feel less threatened by their own insecurities. Now, if that's the case, then I know that they need to begin seeking their own identity. They need to look at their own security issues and not go looking for it in their spouse. And the other question that then follows is, can this weakness be turned into a strength? Now, this is work, and obviously it takes time. Unlearning the old, and replacing it with the new does take time. So sometimes, in fact, it could take many coaching sessions. You know, and then the final question that I kind of ask the clients is, can this weakness be overlooked?
Mhm.
Now, when I say that, what I'm having in my head is, can you forgive each other? Can you be more compassionate? You know, because look, at the end of the day, utilizing each other's strengths and, you know, protecting each other's weaknesses is important. So when you do the opposite, you exploit each other's you know, weaknesses, and you ignore each other's strengths, that leads to an unhappy, deteriorating relationship. And in many ways, I always tell the clients that marriage is like rowing a boat. If you don't understand your strengths, you're not able to communicate effectively, or you're not coordinated in execution, you will end up going around in circles, you know. So yeah, those are really the way that I'm able to determine, try and determine the solutions,
Perfect.
you know.
Let's go to the customers. Do the customers react differently?
Yes, yes. Each client is unique in their own ways, and their own challenges are very unique. But here's the thing, what I completely believe in is one important thing, and that is that the client has all the answers, that he is the expert of his own life, he knows it all. He is creative, he is whole, he is resourceful. All that he needs is a little prod and a push, a little support, because he has that potential. That the client needs is a little push, a little support to manifest that potential in his life. So fortunately, so far, I've had very supportive clients, clients who kind of partner with me in a very powerful way. They trust me, like I said earlier, and that for me is very empowering. It in fact in turn gives me the motivation and to support them to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
So I don't take on clients. Honestly, here, Noor, I have to admit one thing is that I don't take on clients that are not coachable. And I get that in the strategy session itself. I just had one client a few months back, just to kind of go back to that, who ended up asking me more questions than I was asking the client, in the strategy session. Uh, the strategy session, in fact, just to let you know, is the only session where the coach asks questions that are in number more than the client. In all the subsequent coaching sessions, it's the coach zipped and the client talking. So in this case, I mean, I just knew right there I won't be able to coach this client, and so I did refer her off to somebody else. Now having said that, coach behavior could also influence the client. Sometimes, so I speak on behalf of the client and I speak on behalf of the coach as well. A coach has to demonstrate supportive behavior. The coach has to demonstrate positive behavior. It has to be a collaborative partnership between the coach and the coachee, because they co-create goals together, strategies together to get the best results. So I guess it's both ways, Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Let's go more in detail. What is the 3Q process and USP?
Okay, so my 3Q process, my 3Q process is unique to me. I'm not sure if the
Please let me say the question again. What is the 3Q process and the USP?
Okay, so Noor, the 3Q process is a process that I follow. I'm not sure if other coaches follow that. I'm sure they do. But that approach that I focus on is a 3 steps during coaching, which is one of them is asking very powerful questions. That's the first step of my 3Q process. Deepened listening. That's the second bit of it, which in coaching we call the level 3 listening. And the third one is raising self-awareness for the clients.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to see a powerful outcome emerging from the coaching session, these 3 steps are the key. And if I talk a little bit about each one of them, powerful questions, they kind of fit anywhere and everywhere in the coaching session, throughout the coaching sessions. The open-ended questions that end up evoking a kind of a transformation. And an experienced coach, a coach who has had some great results with the clients will be a pro at asking powerful questions. A powerful question is I call it powerful because it cuts through to the heart of the issue. They don't have to be complex. They could be simple. The simpler, the better, in fact. I'll give you an example.
Yeah, please.
If I ask you, Nour, would you recommend my coaching services to those who need it?
Certainly, yes.
What would you? Okay. But if I asked you the same question in a different way, your answer to me was just yes, right? But if I asked you the very same question in a different way and I say, what is the main reason that you choose to be coached by me? Or if I asked you, let's stick to that. What is the main reason you would recommend my services to others? What would your answer then be?
That needs a little study.
Right. So you see, the first one was a close-ended question.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is an open-ended, powerful question, because you're going to stop and think, why am I recommending her?
Yeah.
You
certainly.
see, right? The second step here is listening skills. And listening is the entry point of all coaching. And I call it the gateway through which all of the questions, through which all of my coaching passes through. It's again a skill that needs to be developed. Not everybody really has it. It's an art, and it's about receiving, it's about understanding, it's about accepting the client's thoughts and the thought patterns, the emotions, the things that are not said, the affirmations, the doubts they have. So it's listening is non-judgmental. I'd say that, it's just a simple reception of what is happening, like I mentioned in the very beginning. And attached to listening is a skill called silence. In today's world, I think it's disappearing. We talk more than we listen, or we always try and fill the silence with words. So silence in coaching is key. Displaying silence and a capacity to really listen, it's often an acquired skill. So that's the second step. Now, and the very third step that I'm talking about in my 3Q process is self-awareness. So now, if the coach is employing these skills very skillfully, if I may say, he will create that self-awareness in himself. So if the coach is able to create a high level of self-awareness, then the client will become aware of how the others view him, as well as become honest and realistic about the strengths and the limitations, his values, his beliefs, his needs. Imagine what a person can do if he's completely self-aware. if he knows everything about himself, imagine what he can really do, isn't it?
Let's go deeper into this moment and give this question. What is a Eureka moment?
Yeah, I love using that word, the Eureka moment. I love it, because it's such an exciting, it's a very, it's a very empowering step in the coaching process. And it's my favorite moment, honestly, in the coaching process. I call it the Eureka moment, or I call it the aha moment. It's like I had slightly touched on it in the beginning when I said that there appears a time there in the coaching session when there is a shift in the tide. The coach is asking those questions that take the client, kind of deep into his life. And there's an energy, there's an emotion there, and the client is having some deep end realizations. There's a sensation of a new movement that's happening in his life from that pain in the beginning emerges a rise in his life, and the client starts to see the solutions that he hasn't ever experienced or witnessed before. And this shift is accompanied by a sense of opening in his own life. It's a sense of release, it's a sense of expansion of his life. Emotion has very powerful energy in it. I'm sure you agree with that, because and what coaching does is it kind of unblocks that stuck energy, and when that energy gets unblocked, it creates motion in the energy, and that is why it's called motion, which is energy in motion. So
Yeah.
once the client finds that he has entered that new space, then he starts having fresh access to his own internal resources because he knows the answers. That energy has got unblocked. The resources were always there. And that's what I call the Eureka moment. You know? So, yeah, it's beautiful to see the client opening up and saying, you can see that light in his eyes when he touches that point. And that gives me personally as a coach, a great sense of fulfillment.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, let's go a little bit to the beginning of the coaching. What do you call toxic relationships?
What do I call toxic relationships?
Yeah, when can you call a relationship toxic?
When can I call a relationship toxic is when one of the things that, clients can come to you with a variety of problems. They can tell you, there's infidelity in the marriage, there's monotony, I'm bored, there's no trust, there is no commitment. There can be a whole gamut of problems that are coming. But what I have found, Noor, here is that, and that's my observation. In fact, I did a survey around this. I did 2 surveys around this. In fact, one of the surveys is running on LinkedIn right now. And what I found is that 90% of the toxicity in a relationship is due to poor communication. I once did a survey on LinkedIn a few months back, and I received approximately 558 responses. And out of the 558 responses, I did an analysis of the survey, and I found that 410 responses pointed to poor communication. The client might not know that there is a problem of poor communication, because what he's looking at is, oh, he doesn't trust me, or she doesn't confide in me, or she just keeps silent, and there's boredom and monotony in the relationship, or he's having an affair outside or whatever. But it all starts with poor communication. That's the beginning point of when the relationship starts going downhill.
Mhm. Okay,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then you turn these relationships into passionate ones. When can
yeah.
you call a relationship passionate?
So, I think I've kind of answered that a little bit. I use, first of all, I use a proven process. Um, and there are some carefully designed tools and techniques that support the process more than anything else. It's about coaching the right way. It's about using various skills, and when you are using these tools and techniques and you're doing coaching the right way, you do reach those eureka moments. And it's like I earlier said, uh, the coach and the client co-create and the agenda. They co-create the outcomes. I wouldn't say that they co-create the outcomes, but strategies and goals are co-created. And in the long run, when a client reaches those eureka moments, you know that the solution is not coming out of the client of the coach's life. It is coming out of the client's life, because the coach has asked some very powerful questions. And those eureka moments are solutions emerging out of the client's own life. And that's why, and post that is really when the client starts going through the changes in his life and starts adopting those changes, starts putting them into action, and you see a whole turnaround in the relationship happening. And it's beautiful to hear when the client comes back to you at subsequent sessions and says, "Oh, you know what? I found that my husband has got more responsive," or my wife has, she actually looked really happy when I came back from work today, and she made this very special dinner for me. When you hear those stories, you're you know it's moving in the right direction. It's moving into a playful and a more passionate, a more enduring relationship than it was when the client started off with you.
Perfect. Let's get to your profession and your work. What are the main challenges you face?
The main challenges that I face in my profession of coaching. I find this question a little bit strange. You know why? Because as a life coach, one of the first things to learn is that when you start complaining, you're becoming a victim. You're not in control of your life. Uh, Coaching is very much a lifestyle choice. It's not really a career choice, it's a lifestyle choice. That being said, finding clients, I do have challenges. I think every coach has huge challenges. And I think finding clients who are happy to pay well is probably the most obvious. And I've seen that time and time again coming up with many coaches where, when I'm looking at the social media platforms, I see that this is something that coaches are discussing to a large extent. The other thing is that our industries are overloaded with the ambiguity and around the purpose of coaching, around its objectives, around its outcome. And you suddenly, see coaches mushrooming all over the place. Now, the real reason that most life coaches, and this is a fact, the real reason most life coaches struggle to earn enough money is because they're not good enough at the art of coaching. And to make matters worse, they don't realize it. And it sends many of the coaches down that deep, dark rabbit hole. So what some of the coaches do is hire these digital marketing experts and create stunning websites with great SEOs, and the like. And now all of that is useful. I'm not denying the usefulness of these websites and social media platforms. And it can be used to grow a great business, but it is pointless having them without first having a deep understanding of the art of transformation. Because the words then in those advertisements or on those social media platforms will be hollow, they will be generic. And let's also know well that life coaching is at a very nascent stage, because the awareness of coaching is lower than the number of funnily the number of coaches who have plunged into this coaching field. So the biggest problem is uh, that I see around is a lack of experience, and many may agree to disagree, but coach training is 100% needed.
Yeah.
Those certifications are important.
Certainly.
I have personally studied for 2 years before I even decided to open my own consultancy.
Yeah, that's so important. Let's go to another area on the human level. Do you think you are in the position to affect the world in the way you want?
I'd like to believe I am, one step at a time. When I see happy relationships, happy clients, I know I am inching towards my mission. Becoming a life coach has also allowed me to personally become an expert in my own life. I'm able to tap into my own energy of abundance. And as a life coach, I'm continually encouraging people to live, to expand, and explore where they presently are. And in turn, I think I'm doing the same for my own life as well. So, I know that I'm changing lives profoundly. I'm hoping so. Uh, Honestly, it is the most important role that I have stepped into. And I hope that people are inspired and encouraged, and they are expanding their lives, and I'm helping them facilitate, hold their vision for the future as I work with them, towards achievement, towards what they want.
Perfect. What else would you like to say?
To whom? To the audience? To
Yeah.
I would like to. There's something that I would definitely want to share with everyone, and that is work on being in love with that one person that you see in the mirror, that person who has been through so much but is still standing tall.
Yeah.
Work on being in love with that person, and you'll scale mountains in life. When you start to denigrate your own life, and you don't see yourself as the person that you are, that's when things start to kind of fall apart. So start working to love yourself, because you are worth it.
Yeah, that's an amazing message, Daman. It has been really insightful and helpful talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for your time and for your kind words.
Thank you so much.